In the 16th century, if you were an immensely wealthy silk merchant in Persia, your greatest risk was that your king might suddenly run out of money and could confiscate your entire fortune at any moment. So what did the elite of the past do to protect their massive wealth? They transported those chests of gold and land deeds to donate to a sacred tomb. By dedicating their property to God, that wealth was instantly frozen by an inviolable law. The king couldn't touch it, but the merchant's family could still enjoy the profits from it for generations to come. A wealth protection trick from the Middle Ages. Do you think it will quickly fade into the past? Not at all. The truth is, that primitive concept of spiritual charity silently evolved over centuries, to the point where today it has transformed into one of the most unique economic systems on the planet. It is the lifeblood-pumping machine behind a network of unmarked supertankers cutting through the ocean waves, helping a nation of 88 million people stand firm against the most grueling financial sanctions in modern history. Today, join me in returning to the land of Iran in the 800s AD to hear the story of an economy built on faith survival and extraordinary adaptability. Let's go all the way to the end together. Let's begin. Let's turn back time to the year 818. We are standing in Safavid, a tiny village resting on the windswept Silk Road in the Khorasan region. The air here is stifling yet bustling, blending the crisp chime of camel bells with countless languages of Eurasian merchants. Right at this rest stop, Ali ibn Musa al-Rida, revered as Imam Reza, the eighth supreme spiritual leader of Shia Islam, passed away. He was buried in a humble garden here. Grief and profound respect transformed the village of Safavid into Mashhad, the place of martyrdom. Tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands of devotees from all over the Middle East braved the desert sandstorms to flock here on pilgrimage, seeking peace in their souls. An inevitable rule of economics instantly took shape: the law of supply and demand. These streams of pilgrims needed lodging, food, clean water, and basic services. More importantly, they brought with them a desire to donate to maintain this sacred place. Spiritual devotion automatically forged a hub that attracted massive social resources. An economic ecosystem revolving around faith was born, turning a small dusty village into a bustling supermarket bazaar. Let's look at the life of a Persian merchant family of that era. They lived in baked brick mansions featuring inner courtyards shaded by pomegranate trees and cooling pools. Their wealth came from controlling the spice and carpet supply chains stretching across the Eurasian continent. However, feudal laws were highly precarious. To prevent their estates from being fragmented among descendants, or worse, confiscated into the royal treasury under fabricated pretexts by the court, they utilized the Waqf. Waqf, a religious trust or charitable endowment, is a special economic and legal tool of the Islamic world. The principle of Waqf is to use the donated assets of the wealthy to build orphanages, hospitals, public bathhouses, and provide poverty relief. Once that merchant signed the papers turning his inn shop or wheat farm into a Waqf, it belonged to God permanently. No one, not even the emperor, had the right to buy, sell, or tax it. That wise merchant would appoint his own son as the manager of that asset. A portion of the profits would go to maintain charitable activities, and the rest remained sufficient to sustain the family in affluence for multiple generations. Parallel to the Waqf is khums, a tradition where Shia believers voluntarily contribute 20% of their business profits to religious leaders to be distributed to the community. Waqf and khums, when combined, created a stable social safety net independent of the royal budget. It connected the nobility, merchants, commoners, and religious leaders, protecting and nurturing one another. Around the shrine of Imam Reza, a massive system of Waqf assets, a solid social protection network, gradually took shape. Entering the 16th century, the Safavid dynasty arose. To consolidate national unity and a distinct cultural identity within the region, the Safavid rulers elevated Shia Islam to the state religion. The shrine of Imam Reza in Mashhad received special attention. The royal court poured its budget into renovating the shrine. Glistening turquoise domes and radiant gold leaf tiles turned the shrine into a glowing jewel amidst the desert. In 1510, to manage the increasingly massive Waqf assets, an official organization was established named Astan Quds Razavi. This organization acted as the management agency for the Waqf system. Every morning, thousands of farmers poured into Waqf-owned fields to sow seeds and harvest wheat and saffron. Around the shrine, the bustling Grand Bazaar, home to thousands of guilds of craftsmen, gem cutters, and carpet weavers. All rented premises from AQR, contributing their profits to maintain the heartbeat of the holy site. The expansion of the Waqf provided a solid welfare network, feeding tens of thousands of poor people and sustaining brilliant educational and religious institutions. But the unbuyable nature of Waqf meant that a massive amount of agricultural land and commercial facilities was locked down, unable to participate in the flexible capital circulation of the capitalist market. This created a highly stable economy, but it lacked the necessary flexibility when the world entered the era of industrialization, the Pahlavi dynasty. The core goal of the revolution was an intense desire for absolute independence from external economic interference. The new government, under the leadership of Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, faced the problem of how to handle the colossal assets of the former royal family and private corporations. They chose a solution based on their own historical traditions, upgrading the Waqf model into organizations called bonyads, semi-governmental foundations. Massive assets were nationalized and handed over to the bonyads to manage, with the guiding principle of helping the oppressed and supporting the families of martyrs and wounded veterans after the devastating Iran-Iraq War. The Astan Quds Razavi organization continued to act as one of the largest bonyads, expanding its scale from managing the shrine to investing in essential industrial sectors, from agricultural production, energy, and pharmaceuticals to automobile manufacturing. The Bonyad model is an effort to build a resistance economy. These organizations operate like multi-sector conglomerates, but a large portion of their profits is required to be reinvested into domestic social welfare and infrastructure. Thanks to long-term tax exemptions and favorable exchange rates, the bonyads have served as the pillars keeping Iran's domestic economy from collapsing during its hardest times, maintaining millions of jobs for the people. In recent decades, Iran's economy has had to endure international sanctions considered the most grueling in modern history. Oil exports, the main source of foreign currency, were tightly restricted. Essential goods, technology, and medicine became hard to access. Faced with this isolation, Iran, with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and domestic corporations at its core, had to establish a different survival strategy. Militarily unable to compete in conventional weaponry with Western powers, they built an asymmetric defense network to push security risks far away from their national borders. Economically, they forged a non-traditional maritime logistics network, which Western media often calls the Ghost Fleet. This is a collection of oil tankers and cargo ships that constantly change their flags of registry, utilizing tactics like turning off AIS, tracking signals, and conducting direct ship-to-ship transfers at sea. It helps maintain the flow of crude oil exports to Asian markets, bringing in tens of billions of dollars in vital foreign currency every year. This cash flow is circulated through alternative payment systems, helping the government maintain subsidies for domestic food and energy and funding regional security strategies. That is the art of survival for a nation under siege. Step into the traditional Grand Bazaar of Tehran today. Rows of shops are stacked high with exquisite hand-woven carpets and overflowing trays of pistachios, but the number of buyers has drastically thinned out. High inflation causes the middle class's savings to shrink. The cost of living escalates by the day. The private economic sector struggles heavily due to difficulties in accessing imported raw materials and the inability to compete fairly with the bonyads organizations that are far too large and receive numerous state privileges. Further away from the bazaar at the departure hall of Imam Khomeini International Airport is the image of software engineers and young doctors tearfully hugging their families goodbye. Carrying outstanding university degrees, they pack their bags to leave their homeland seeking developmental opportunities in Europe or North America. Ideological, economic, and social conflicts are unfolding within Iranian society. The younger generation yearns for structural reform. They desire increased transparency, reduced bonyad interference in the market, and long for an open economy to integrate into the global value chain. The friction between, on one side, the need to maintain an autonomous economic system to protect national security, and on the other, the aspiration for development and elevating the living standards of 88 million people is precisely the greatest challenge this country is currently facing. I am Robert Langdon from History Reconstruction. Thank you for opening your minds and accompanying me. If you found that this journey brought profound and fair perspectives, don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next chapters of history.